Back to the Askari Cast. My name is Rod Van Blake, author of the Ancient Illumination series as well as Young Bonnie Chronicles. And I am joined once again by Jocelyn Short.
Hello.
She is the creator of The Bearers. We are anxiously awaiting the release of, as well as the concept artist and illustrator. There will be links to both my author website and her website if you wish to look at any of her art and support her business. Today, we are back talking about Secret Invasion, episode 5, released on Wednesday. Um, we only got one more episode left.
I am so interested in how it's gonna go.
Yeah,
Just based on how this episode went. I don't know. I don't know what's coming.
yeah, and it, like they're gonna have a lot to kind of tie up.
Yeah.
Spoilers if you guys haven't watched up to at least episode 5. We open this episode with President Ritson after the attack that the Skrull perpetrated on him, trying to make it look like the Russians. And Nick Fury is trying to whisper in his ear, let him know about Scrody, as people are calling him now, that because Rhodey's a Skrull. Um, so that's interesting. He's like, hey, don't trust Rhodey, like whispering in his ear, like my man's unconscious. He's on the brink of death at the hospital.
That's all he can do.
Yeah,
That's all I can do.
yeah, they're rolling my man in on the hospital gurney. He's trying to whisper to him, and they don't, because Nick's clearance has been pulled. They don't let him back. Like you don't have clearance to be here, and so he pulls up a chair and decides he's going to sit outside with a gun in the chair. And I'm like, where's Secret Service at? Like
I know.
he's the only one that got in the car. Like he was able to whisk the president away by himself. No Secret Service. That's a
Right? Like,
bad
how
thing.
was he even able to be there? I
Yeah.
don't know. I don't know. It's.
So,
I don't know if it's just like they didn't think about it, or just like if that part was like Nick Fury is very much at this point just kind of flying by the seat of his pants, trying to make this come together, like really just trying to make this work and fix it, I guess, and doing whatever he can, just like heat of the moment, like don't trust him.
well, he is. I thought you were talking about the writing crew, but yeah,
Or
he
I mean
is.
that too, yes. Like he just hopped in and it was fine, you know.
Yeah. He is very much, flying by the seat of his pants with his resources being pulled from him for the most part. I mean, he's
Yeah.
got his own secret stashes everywhere, but the big stuff that he usually has access to is no longer at his disposal. So yeah, he's in scramble mode pretty much the whole time, with a few select trusted beings that he can, use and go to, which are now few and far between. Um, Scrody eventually shows up. Nick gets the drop on him and pulls a gun on him, and that was an interesting confrontation with them. And I'm not understanding why he doesn't do what Sonya from MI6 does later on in the episode we see, because Scody's like, you're not ready to die. The only way you can out me is if you kill me, and you're not ready. Because if he shoots, he's thinking the Secret Service or the guards are going to shoot Nick Fury. But we see later on that you don't have to kill him, and in
Oh,
fact,
yeah,
Talos,
yeah, that's right. To like reveal them. Yeah.
yeah, as a matter of fact, Talos episodes before got shot in the arm and began mid transforming during the battle when they were trying to free the president from the car. And they could see that the green, skin, that weird ears start popping out without him actually being dead. And that's why the one soldier starts freaking out. Oi, he's a freaking alien. He was ready to get down until Dick told him, yo, he's with us. He's with me. Nothing to see here. He's protecting the president just like you all. We're all on the same side here. And then we see, uh, I was wondering about this earlier. I think we talked about this before in other episodes about, was it the plan to get the scroll caught? And I thought it was very haphazard of Gravik to basically nearly sacrifice a few of his good people in order to catch who the traitor was. And then
Yeah.
we find out later that's exactly what happened. Because when they get back to the compound, Pagan has the same question, like, "Yo, you had us run around looking for this stuff, and everywhere we looked, we ain't found it."
It's not even there. Like,
Yeah. So he finally speaks up. That ends up being a mistake because Gravik used his group genes that he done stole to kill him in front of everybody. We see he has problems and kills Pagan. I knew he was gonna get jumped. That was kind of, I knew he was gonna get jumped at that point. Like,
yeah.
Beto's questioning things, everybody else is kind of looking at him kind of crazy. I don't know if the character has a name, but one of the scrolls kind of looks like she could be Middle Eastern or European mix, but she thanks him when he, I don't know if you remember when he becomes the general, that the council grant him the title of general for their army, and he comes home to like a hero's welcome. One of the scrolls there thanks him. She's even looking at him funny now. So I'm like, oh, it's about to go down. Um, Gaia ends up going to Vara, aka Priscilla, to get
Yeah.
help burying Talos. And he's
I'm very interested in what is gonna play out for Gaia in the last episode. Because I just feel like the whole, like everything we've seen of her so far has just been so subdued, and like all this intense stuff is happening,
yeah.
and like she just hasn't played, like she's played a role certainly, but like I don't know, like she hasn't been as like active in the show as like you might think she would be. So I don't know. I hope we get a payoff for her character.
I think right now she's hiding out
Yeah,
because Gravik thinks he killed her
fair
and
enough.
doesn't know that she's also stolen the extremist powers. So she kind of has to keep that. And I think that's part of what we're going to see in this last episode. You watched the trailer for the finale?
Uh-uh.
Okay. Well, I think
I'll watch it when we get off.
when we see in this episode that Nick Fury ends up going to Finland to get his stash with Sonya from SIS. I don't think initially the fight scene that we've been seeing in the trailers is actually Nick Fury fighting Gravik. I think that's Gaia fighting Nick Fury, changing herself to look like Nick Fury.
Okay.
Remember when they leave, she says, "I'll put on a good face."
Yes, I saw that, and I was like, "That's interesting." Okay.
Yeah. I think that's what she's alluding to when she says, "I'll put on a good face." She's going to pretend to be Nick Fury. Plus, we know that humans don't do well in this nuclear reactor compound that they're living in because of radiation, and Skrulls don't react well. I mean, Skrulls are not affected as much by the radiations, why they're able to live there pretty much unobserved.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, Guy goes to bury Talos, and Sonya finds the Daltons and also outs the SIS operative in her own unit that's a Skrull. Like, and this is the other what I was talking about when why did Nick do the same thing she did? She goes into the office, the dude. He tries to say, "Tell her I'm busy," and of course she's bypassed security and is already walking into his office, and then shoots my boy through the hand and leg. And as the security comes in to say, "What have you done?" I'm just, I want you to see his true colors. And then they see that his hand is green and he's starting to morph. Like, why did Nick Fury do that to Scrody in front of his Secret Service? But I'm thinking maybe they would have shot and killed him had he shot anything. Not just, he had the gun to his neck.
Yeah, I mean, and this could be a reach because the show doesn't explicitly cover this, but like, you would assume kind of anywhere that Scrody is, there is cameras watching him, like along with his Secret Service, so he'd be recorded. So whether or not, like, you know, like even if that was the real Rhodey and like Nick Fury did that, there would be cameras recording. But like, of course, if he would have shot him, if he would have shot Scrody, and that was on film, that could cause a coup. Like that could that would start, it would inevitably lead to just strife and discord and chaos. Because if that video gets out, it's insane. Because then where's Rhodey and all that. So
Yeah.
I think Nick Fury knows that he's trying to stop like the war in general, and I think
Yeah.
if he would have shot Scrody, it would have like fast tracked war.
And until we hear the conversation where he basically Gravik asked Nick Fury where the harvest is, I didn't understand why Rava, aka Scrody, didn't just have Nick Fury killed right there on the spot. Like, he's been a sore thumb. He's been a thorn in y'all sides the whole time. Just end this now and kill him. But they're leaving him alive, hoping that he can lead them to this harvest, which I don't know if that really exists. I think this is a red herring that he's leading them on with this harvest of DNA.
Okay, so I think I was I just want to clarify this because I'm trying to, I think I was maybe a little bit confused by
Okay.
them. So I think from what I understand, the harvest is basically when the superheroes, every time they came and fought, Nick Fury would collect superhero DNA, like as they bled from
Yeah.
their bodies onto the battlegrounds. Nick Fury would collect that DNA and harvest that. Is that
Yeah,
essentially?
that's the harvest. Not only that, not only the Avengers, but think about it. Groot from Guardians of the Galaxy, the creature from Jotunheim that would have been Thor Dark World, I
Yeah,
think, where that creature was on the planet. So any kind of weird DNA that or blood that was spilled on planet, he apparently had this group of Skrulls acting on his behalf, collecting and harvesting all this DNA. My thing is like, what did he plan to do with it?
yeah.
If not to use it in some way, what are you conserving it for? That just seems like a really dumb thing.
Maybe it was oh shoot. What is the name of that Justice League movie where Batman basically has contingency plans for all the members of
Oh yeah.
yeah. I think it's just that. Like um I think maybe he was but like different in a sense of maybe Nick Fury is trying to find ways to not necessarily like need to call on the Avengers every single time.
Yeah.
So like by crafting their own version. But then that's also confusing because like, what was the super soldier program? Like that already exists on Earth. And so what is it even really for?
I
Or
maybe you can step above that
fair enough.
if they can replicate it.
Because you got alien DNA and all that kind of extra stuff. And like, but yeah, it's a good question because like, like we covered in the past episode, like Tony Stark already kind of did that in with in the third Iron Man movie.
Extremis, yeah. He had Extremis and didn't do he was holding it and didn't do nothing with it. But obviously somebody got a hold of it.
So we've covered this. So like yeah, to your question, I don't know why he's like what the point of this is. So
Yeah. So then we get to the next part. Gravik actually gets jumped, and it was hilarious. I knew that wasn't gonna go down. He gets jumped and then comes out. Who else wants some of Debo? He comes out and they don't win. And then even Scrody kind of looks at him crazy through the phone when he's ordered to implicate the Skrulls in addition to the Russians and basically tell them there's a cooperation. He's still trying to get this World War III thing going. And then after he makes the call, they have the conversation with him and Nick Fury saying, I'll call it off. Like, you've already had Scrody tell the president it was the Skrulls in conjunction with the Russians.
yeah,
So there is no pulling that information back once you've already told him. We don't know. I don't know. I think the president might have heard Nick Fury when he whispered to him at first, and now is just kind of just sitting there. I didn't understand why Fury didn't just sneak one of those little earbuds in his ear so he
yeah.
could talk to him. You know what I mean? And not know. Just be like, if you're alone, say or something. So it doesn't sound like you're conversing with anybody if anybody was in the room with him.
It's very interesting because like some of this stuff sounds like either it's incomplete writing or they're trying to like continue to show that like Nick Fury is maybe not as effective just still at this point, um, as the kind of operative that he is. Like maybe he's just not, he don't have it. He's not in his pocket with it. Whereas like the other lady, that British lady,
Sonya Atwell, yeah.
yeah, like she's dialed in. Like she's right. She's on it every minute.
She's dialed in, and I'm still. There's more to her than meets the eye.
There is.
I
I'm
can't get
not.
that up.
I don't know what she's doing here. Like I don't know why she's here. And maybe that I'm not sure if it's because I've missed it in the show or
Well,
not.
and also, she's from, I think, Age of Ultron. She's the one that had her officer home destroyed during that movie. That's why
Mhm.
she keeps bringing that back. Like, you basically ruined my place. So she's been in the MCU, but I do think there's more. She's too calm and collected in times where she should be afraid. Like, she I don't know if she's got the plot armor. Or like I said, she might still be a scroll or something.
I don't know, but she definitely knows. She knows more than everybody.
Yeah.
Kind of like, and I feel like she knows more than everybody. But apparently, her and Nick Fury are friends. As we kind of find out, I guess, as we see at the end.
From the Cold War.
Oh, okay.
That in the first episode when they're talking about we used to work really well together,
Hmm.
and that's how she knows that he thinks that she thinks he's lost a step because she's seen in her eyes she's seen prime Nick Fury when he was on his game and knew everything, and now she's like, you've gotten old, you need to be put out the pasture,
Gotcha.
you're
Gotcha.
not ready for this fight. It's because they have a long history,
Gotcha.
throughout the
Thank you
lore.
for the. Yeah, I need the reminder.
Yeah.
Like okay, all right, got it, got
So
it.
we go from after he gets jumped, Gravik gets jumped, and then tells Scotty to implicate the Skrulls to bomb their compound to start World War III. Then we see Gaia actually bury Talos with Vara's help, and she doesn't know. This was kind of a touchstone on immigration
Yeah,
and the next generation that usually comes with immigrant parents who usually, don't know the language of their parents because she didn't know the prayer,
yeah,
you know, to send him back to spiritual Skrullos or whatever it was that Vara was saying.
yeah,
It was interesting, and then they just basically sit there and wait for the kill crew to come. I didn't really get that. Like, you disobeyed one order, you didn't want to kill Nick Fury, but then you obey the order to stay here and await your assassination. And then she kind of throws a jab at her when Vara was sitting there and kind of reminiscing about their relationship, watching Nick Fury. He liked to let the sun kiss his skin, and
yeah,
I sit here and watch him for hours. And then she comes back with, how many times did Nick look at you in your own skin? Like, were you able to be you? Which is another uh, immigration type of subject where they're asked to assimilate, not actually be themselves and act more like whatever country they've moved to. And Priscilla doesn't like that. She's like, you don't know nothing, youngster. You don't know what it takes to make a life together, to sustain a life together. She goes off on it. She's like, oh, I didn't mean to offend. She's like, oh, but you did. And there was a cool scene where you see how prepared Priscilla was, and you're like, of course. Because then you get a reminder that aside from being a Skrull, Vara, aka Priscilla, is also a former agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., so she would have had a lot of the same training that the agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. would have had, in addition to being an alien that could shapeshift. So
hmm
she had a couple of bug out bags in the greenhouse with bulletproof vests attached to it and chest plates and holsters for pistols.
hmm
That kill crew, they sent the worst people because if you had a clean shot,
Yeah, I'm like they made all that noise, and I'm like, what are y'all doing? Like, isn't it if it's an assassination? It should be like quick, smooth, and she spent that whole monologue
yeah,
talking about the windows, all this light.
yes, you had a clear open shot and you hit the
Yeah,
P set instead of the person you was actually trying to shoot. And if it was
and
like you said, as a wide open as she was talking about, then it should have been an easy
it
one
should
and
have
done to be
been.
out of there.
But to be honest, the scene kind of needed them to boom in like that because it,
Yeah.
like it was getting dry. It was a good monologue. It was, but I was
Yeah.
like, all right, when I'm gonna need this to shift a little bit. So
Everybody has stormtrooper aim apparently because they came in shooting and didn't hit. Like you didn't even get like a glimpse. Nobody got nicked as far as Gaia and Vara in the fight. No one got nicked. No one got it's just a flesh wound. Nothing. No one got hit. Nothing. They just whooped everybody up, shot them all, and then waltzed out of there. It's kind of crazy. But I'm liking it so far. I'm interested to see where they go with it. Um, Fury finally explains what the harvest is on like the road trip up to Finland. Oh, we get to see the Widow's Veil. Do you remember that?
the Widow's Veil.
Did you see Black Widow, the movie?
Yeah.
And you saw, what was it? Captain America Winter Soldier, it might have been, when Black Widow has the face thing peeled off, when Robert Redford is one of the top people that was actually Hydra. And she
Oh.
has the wig and the veil on, disguised as somebody else. We've seen this thing a bunch of times throughout the MCU and TV shows. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. There was a character that was pretending to be Ming-Na Wen's character.
Mm-hmm.
He basically peels the face off, and that's what Nick Fury was wearing, the wig to get through customs.
Mm-hmm.
He had the white wig on top and then the face thing. That's some technology that Black Widow had. That's why it's called Widow's Veil, and how he got through. And when he gets in the car, they're discussing the technology, and she was like, why didn't you wear this one full body? Because you notice when he hands his passport over, he has gloves on, obviously to hide his black hands.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't want the white dude's face and then black hands handing over like, that looks a little weird. And then they get in the car and he starts kind of explaining stuff as they drive up to Finland, which is also the reason what makes me think it's not actually Nick Fury that confronts Gravik, because the distance between Finland and the compound in Russia, are very far away. I think Guy is on her way there to confront Gravik and put on the good face, which would be Nick Fury's face, and they'll fight. Um, and then he picks up that vial, and that's why I think that's got to be a fake vial. We see him get decked out. He goes to his stash and gets his leather trench coat, his eye patch.
What is supposed to be the vial? Is that like
The
something?
vial is supposed to be a part of that harvest. That's supposed to, when you see him, when the tombstone rises up, and then he picks up that little clear vial.
Yeah.
That's supposed to be the DNA of somebody. I'm thinking it might be Carol Danvers, because she's mentioned, actually name dropped in episode a bunch of times. Like possibly that's the one he has in his hand.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that's going to be all of the DNAs mixed together in one vial. That doesn't make any sense. It might be. And they obviously had them parsed out individually because of the records that they had, the scroll that had the other DNA samples. And I think the hand of Cole Obsidian was what Pagano was supposed to be stealing. Because before he kills him, he said, if you'd have stole what you were supposed to, we wouldn't even be in this mess, basically. And he wasn't able to get in the hand from the, I think it's Avengers Endgame, where we see his hand get cut off by Wong.
Yeah.
So I think that was the thing he was supposed to steal. But yeah, Fury explains the harvest to Sonya, and apparently she didn't realize he was married to a Skrull, because when she asked why Finland, she said, "Oh, my wife and I honeymooned here. The Skrull like it cold." And then she's like, "Oh," so she didn't know that Nick, and he was like, "Yeah." After he sees the realization cross her face, this is kind of another reason why to him it's very personal, and why he won't. It still doesn't make any sense of why he won't call the Avengers in, but we all know why. It's probably money. And the show, I don't know if you heard, it was 200 million, something like that. For
to get the rest of like the.
No.
What do you mean?
That was the cost of this show.
Oh.
200 mil.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
And you've only had 6 episodes, so that's a pretty penny per episode. So you can imagine how much that would have boosted up if you'd had to call the big boys and girls from the Avengers, and it would have made that price tag jump. You see him put on his fit, the one that we're used to seeing. He's got like a weird purple skull cap instead of the black one. I don't know if that signifies anything. Do you remember seeing him in purple before? I remember seeing him in all black in all the MCU movies. It's all usually all black.
I feel like it's been all black the whole time, but if you're seeing purple, I don't actually know, but my best guess is that like if he put on purple, it probably has something to do with like the comics.
Yeah.
Um
It's just the skull cap though. Everything else is black. It's either
I
purple or maroon, but it wasn't as dark as the rest of his fit when he puts it on. It's like that's like the last touch you see him as he goes out, his little swagger out of the tomb.
yeah.
And I don't know if you noticed the Nordic runes on all the graves that he's getting his stuff out of. It takes his breath to. I wonder if it's activated by anybody's breath or it's his breath specifically that opens up.
I think it's got to be his breath specifically because if it's not, then what?
So we got a lot to wrap up next week with this one episode because they're also getting ready for the Marvels
Hmm.
movie that's going to be releasing. We
Yeah.
have the Thunderbolts, which I don't know if you too deep into that, but we know that Harrison Ford has been cast to play Thunderbolt Ross, who becomes the president and is also the Red Hulk in that run. So
Okay.
something has to happen to President Ritson to make room for there to be another president.
They
So
got a lot to do this
yeah,
next episode.
yeah, he ain't gonna make it. That
They got a lot to cover. I wonder if the next episode is going to be like an hour and a half, like a full movie or something.
maybe because I think this was the shortest episode,
Mm, yeah.
or maybe it just felt short.
I think it, I think, no, I think it was short. I think
Yeah,
it was. So, but yeah, they got a lot to do because you know, they got to set up the conflict for the Marvels and then, um, like you said, with the Thunderbolts, there's a lot going on.
yeah, and the Marvels. It's kind of weird when you have these shows that go in between the mainline stories because certain things are going to be in place later.
Yeah.
I don't think unless it's Skrull acting as Nick Fury, as we've seen before, Nick Fury doesn't die because he goes back up to Saber to be there for Kamala Khan to run into him during the Marvels movie. We've seen that in the trailer. So it'll be weird to see how we get to that point. Like I said, Ritson's got to go as president because he's replaced by Thunderbolt Ross. Um, Guy, I think, will still be around. I think Gravik has to go.
Yeah. I
And
wonder,
then,
I mean, we don't, I don't know if they showed in the trailers for the Marvels, like who the villain is going to be, but I wonder if it's going to be Gravik. Like, I wonder if Gravik will win at the.
no, I think it's a woman. A woman is the villain.
Oh, okay.
I forget what her name is. I've seen it, but I forget what the name of the character is. But yeah, there's a female antagonist in the trailer so far. So Gravin's got to go, but also, they're not going to kill off all the Skrulls. So what are we going to do with the ones left?
I don't
Or
know.
they're just
We're
going to
back
cut,
where we started at the beginning of the show with them not having a home and all the stuff.
or do they just, we get rid of all the militant Skrull, and then we
Yeah.
just have the ones that just are happy to live their lives out here on Earth, assuming the identities of whoever, somebody may die, they can just step right into that role and
Yeah.
have a life to live out without worrying about fighting or whether that'll be enough for them. We can live in peace and not be at war with everybody. The Kree done whooped us, blew up our planet, and we've just been on the run ever since. And it seems like there are reprisals from the Kree for anybody who harbors the Skrull too. I don't think they talked about that really in this. Like if you go to a planet in the Skrull, you openly accept them. That brings heat down on that planet from the Skrull. I mean, not the Skrull, the Kree.
Mm,
So it's
mm.
kind of like a threat. Like,
Oh, yeah, 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 yeah.
so they made you, let's just lay low here and pretend to be human the whole time and not fight nobody and just live out the rest of our lives in peace, relative peace to what it could be.
I wonder, I mean, and forgive me if this has already been covered somewhere. I'm not sure. But like, I wonder, aside from like what Nick Fury had already said about like why America is, or not America, but just the world is bad at accepting new people. Like maybe he knows that like um integrating the scroll is gonna directly put a target on, you know, on Earth from the Kree, and so he's trying to avoid it.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
definitely think that's part of it. That's why, like I said before when we were discussing it last issue, like that was never the plan, was just to fully integrate them here. The plan was for Carol Danvers and Nick Fury collaboratively to find them a home of their own that they could have, and not just infringe on this one, because that ain't gonna work. Like we can't, like he said, we can't even accept ourselves.
Yeah.
Since the moment that we've been drawing breath, we've been fighting, and anything kind of new or different that we see, we rail against, and damn near and blow ourselves up multiple times throughout history. You think the introduction to a totally new species the majority of us don't know about that are here is just going to be all fine and dandy and we'll kumbaya and hold hands? Like, nah, that ain't gonna happen, bro. And that's like you were saying before. You were like, well, then what was the point? If the point was to find them somewhere else to live.
Fair enough. Fair
Yeah.
enough.
So yeah, Gravik got to go. Redson's got to go. Nick's got to go back up to Saber. It'll be interesting to see what happens between. You think it's over between Nick and Vara, Priscilla?
I don't think so. I think
Yeah.
they're gonna find each other again and, you know, do what they always been doing.
Hopefully, if she survives.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hold on. I have to open the door real quick. I'm listening to you.
Yeah. Yeah. I hope they eventually find each other, and continue to build upon what they had, because that was a dope scene. He's like, I don't know whether this means we're getting a divorce or renewing our vows when they didn't kill each other the previous episode. That was a really cool scene to me. So it'd be cool if they stuck it out and somehow
Yeah.
found a way to keep together.
Yeah, I think they'll be fine. You know, I can't imagine. I can't. I mean, we've seen what we've seen, and like you said from that one scene, that they're good. You know, they're not going to kill each other. They're not so easily swayed by, you know, whoever's trying to kill, you know, either one of them. But so it, to me, that just makes it seem like, after all this is said and done, whatever this is,
Yeah.
they're going to go back, either find a new home or start over somewhere, or, you know, find a new way to rekindle, you know, because I guess I would say the thing that would change, is that, you know, he's heard what she's had to say about the fact that like you you came back after you disappeared, you know, after I just finished grieving you,
Yeah.
and then you came back and you left by choice again and left me alone. So I think they would need to, like, if they find a place again and figure it out, they would have to figure that out. But as far as like them being okay, I think they'll be fine.
I think she's going to push the issue with being at home in her own skin too.
That too, yeah.
I think that's going to be a thing that, okay, we're going to set up some ground rules. Also, at home, I get to be in full green skin the whole time, and you can't say nothing. You're gonna be with me for real.
You won't see this green skin, okay?
You're gonna
You'll,
see this green booty when I'm at
you'll
home.
get this
All right.
green booty, all right? Oh my god, yes.
It's gonna be crazy. Yeah, it's gonna be hilarious. So one more week of this, and we'll see how they tie everything up. We've had one or two lurkers, and I've seen them watching the live. I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to hear us ramble on about these things. Jocelyn, thank you again for taking time out of your day to talk to me about these things. We will see you all next week, and hopefully George will be back by then. And see you then.
See y'all.
Peace.